So if you're asked to find the domain of a function, you're supposed to specify all the possible numbers you can plug into x into the function. And that means you're just looking for all the things that could cause a divide by zero error, that could cause a square root of a negative problem, which would be an imaginary number. So with this function, there's no chance of dividing by zero. You can plug in x equals 1, you can plug in x equals 100, you're never going to divide by zero. And there's no chance of a square root of a negative, so there's no square root. So this one, the domain we say with interval notation is negative infinity to positive infinity. And that's it. That's the domain. Okay. Remember, with interval notation, you express the smallest number possible, comma, largest number possible. And there's no breaks in there. Any number between negative infinity and positive infinity. That's the domain. When they say support your answer graphically, if you're not sure how to graph a parabola, here, I'll show you two ways. The graph of x squared, I'll graph that here, is a parabola that crosses at 0, 0. And that's just usually something we want students to know at the end of Algebra 2 automatically. And if you were to plug in negative 1 into this equation, you get out y equals positive 1. If you plug in positive 1, you get out y equals positive 1. So x squared crosses at the origin. And a plus 4 means a vertical shift of 4 units up. So instead of crossing at 0, 0, the parabola will cross at 0, 4. And that's a rough sketch. Okay, just a rough sketch because we haven't specified the other points. That's roughly what it should look like. And they want you to support it graphically because, look, if you look on the x-axis, you can get any number that you can think of. You can get to x equals 100. That should be part of your domain. It'll be way up here, but x equals 100 is certainly possible. Okay, so the other way to graph, if you want to graph this thing, you can graph any equation like this in math, any function. You get to pick whatever number you want to plug in for x. Don't do something crazy to make your life hard. You could plug in negative 100. Plug it in here. I need my calculator. So negative 100 squared would be positive 10,000. Negative times negative makes a positive, plus 4. So the y coordinate is 10,004. But that's just a silly one to pick because now your graph is going to have to stretch all the way up to 10,004, right? So try picking some numbers that are going to give you a small result, easy to graph. And so I'm just going to pick x equals 0 and see what happens. You can pick whatever number you want here, though. Okay. If you plug in x equals 0, 0 squared is 0. 0 plus 4 is 4. If you plug in x equals 1, 1 squared is 1. 1 plus 4 is 5. I'm just picking random numbers. Doesn't have to be exactly these numbers. You can still get a good sketch of the graph without these. I'll plug in x equals negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 1. Negative 1 times itself makes positive 1. 1 plus 4 is 5. You can plug in negative 2. That would be 8. If you plug in positive 2, I'm just picking numbers. Okay, you can pick whatever number you want. Because what you're doing is you're getting yourself data points for this graph. 0 on the x, we should cross at 4 on the y. Put a dot there. 1 on the x, we should cross at 5 on the y. Negative 1 on the x, we should be at 5 on the y. So here's negative 1, here's 5. And you can see the parabola forming.